The galactic threat emerges. In the vast expanse of the Milky Way, countless civilizations had flourished for millennia. Worlds of every description, from gas giants to rocky planets, hosted a dizzying array of sentient species. The galaxy had known peace for generations, maintained by the Galactic Concord, an alliance of the most advanced races dedicated to mutual protection and the sharing of knowledge. But peace, as it often does, bred complacency. The first sign of trouble came from the Outer Rim. Eridani Prime, a bustling commerce hub, went dark without warning. Initial investigations found only silence and destruction. In the following weeks, more worlds fell silent. Panic spread through the galaxy like wildfire. The Galactic Concord convened an emergency session. Representatives from 100 worlds gathered in the Great Hall of Centauri Station, their faces etched with worry and fear. "We face an unprecedented threat," announced High Counselor Zixara, her tentacles quivering with emotion. "An unknown force is systematically destroying our outposts and colonies. Our fleets are powerless against them." Holographic displays flickered to life, showing scenes of utter devastation. Entire cities reduced to ash, orbital stations torn apart like paper. The gathered delegates watched in horror as a recording showed a sleek black ship materializing out of nowhere, unleashing beams of searing energy that cut through planetary defenses like they weren't there. "We've designated this enemy as the Void," Zixara continued. "They leave no survivors, make no demands. They simply annihilate." The chamber erupted into chaos. Accusations flew, fingers were pointed, and voices raised in fear and anger. It was clear that the Galactic Concord, for all its advancement, was utterly unprepared for this threat. As the turmoil reached its peak, a quiet voice cut through the din. Perhaps we need a new perspective." All eyes turned to the speaker, a small, unassuming figure at the back of the hall. It was Lyra Tassoni, ambassador from one of the galaxy's youngest spacefaring races, humanity. "With all due respect," Lyra continued, her voice growing stronger, "our current strategies are clearly ineffective. The Void seems to anticipate our every move, but humanity, we're new to this galactic stage. Our methods might be primitive by your standards, but they're also unpredictable." Scoffs and dismissive murmurs rippled through the crowd. Humans were seen as upstarts, barely out of their cradle world. But as the muttering died down, a few thoughtful nods could be seen. High Counselor Zixara leaned forward, her compound eyes fixed on Lyra. "And what will humanity propose, Ambassador Tassoni?" Lyra took a deep breath. This was humanity's chance to prove itself on the galactic stage. "We propose a joint task force. Combine our unconventional tactics with your advanced technology. Give us a chance to show what we can do." The proposal was met with skepticism, but as reports of more devastated worlds poured in, desperation began to outweigh caution. After hours of heated debate, the Galactic Concord made a historic decision. Humanity would be given a chance to lead the fight against the Void. As the session adjourned, Lyra found herself cornered by Caxlor, the grizzled commander of the Concord's military forces. "I hope you know what you're doing, human," he growled. "The fate of the galaxy now rests on your species' shoulders." Lyra met his gaze steadily. "We won't let you down, Commander. Humanity has faced extinction-level threats before. We're still here, and we'll make damn sure the galaxy is still here when this is over." As she walked away, Lyra's mind raced with the enormity of the task ahead. Humanity had dreamed of making its mark on the galaxy, but not like this. They would have to draw on every ounce of ingenuity, every scrap of determination that had seen them survive and thrive on their harsh homeworld. The Void was coming, and humanity would be ready. In the following days, as news of the Concord's decision spread, Earth became a hive of activity. Military leaders, scientists, and strategists from around the world gathered to formulate a plan. The best minds humanity had to offer worked around the clock, analyzing the limited data on the Void and brainstorming potential weaknesses. Captain Aisha Malik, decorated veteran of the Mars conflict, found herself at the center of this whirlwind. As she stood before a panel of Earth's leaders and alien observers, she felt the weight of not just humanity, but the entire galaxy on her shoulders. "Ladies, gentlemen, and honored guests," she began, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. "We've studied the Void's tactics, and we believe we've identified a potential weakness. They rely heavily on advanced technology that might be vulnerable to good old-fashioned electromagnetic pulse weapons." Murmurs of interest rippled through the crowd. It was a simple idea, almost laughably so to some of the more advanced races, but that was precisely why it might work. Furthermore, Aisha continued, "We propose a strategy of asymmetric warfare. Small, agile teams using guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run operations to keep the Void off balance. We can't match their firepower, but we can outsmart them." As the meeting progressed, a plan began to take shape. It was audacious, risky, and unlike anything the Galactic Concord had ever attempted. But with the Void's attacks intensifying, there was no time for half measures. As the first human-led task force prepared to deploy, Captain Malik stood on the bridge of the HMS Defiant, Earth's most advanced warship. Around her, a crew of humans and aliens worked in harmony, a testament to the cooperation that would be needed to face this threat. Aisha took a deep breath, steeling herself for the challenges ahead. "All stations, report in," she ordered. One by one, confirmations came in. Weapons, propulsion, shields, all systems were go. As the Defiant and its escort fleet prepared to jump to light speed, Aisha allowed herself a small smile. The Void had terrorized the galaxy, thinking themselves invincible. They were about to learn a harsh lesson: never underestimate humanity. With a flash of light, the fleet vanished into the depths of space, carrying with it the hopes of countless worlds. The battle for the galaxy had begun, and humanity was leading the charge. Humanity joins the fight. The HMS Defiant emerged from lightspeed at the edge of the Arcturus system, the site of the Void's most recent attack. Captain Aisha Malik stood at the helm, her eyes scanning the tactical displays. The devastation was even worse than the reports had suggested. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Commander Chen, his voice barely audible. "They didn't leave anything." Aisha steeled herself. This was no time for shock or grief. All ships maintain stealth protocols. Scan for any signs of the Void's presence. As the fleet began its careful sweep of the system, Aisha retreated to the war room. There, she found an eclectic group of specialists, the best Earth had to offer, along with representatives from key alien races. Dr. Zara Okoro, Earth's leading xenobiologist, was hunched over a holographic display of Void ship schematics. Beside her, Cathar, a Praxian weapons expert, manipulated the image with his 4 arms. "Captain," Zara greeted without looking up, "we think we've identified a potential weak point in the Void ships." Aisha leaned in, her interest piqued. "Show me." Cathar highlighted a section near the rear of the ship. "Their propulsion system. It's unlike anything we've seen before, but it seems to rely on exotic particles that are highly sensitive to gravitational fluctuations. If we can disrupt their gravitational field," Zara continued, "we might be able to disable their ships without destroying them. That could give us a chance to board and gather intel." It was a risky plan, but Aisha had learned long ago that sometimes the greatest risks yielded the greatest rewards. "Good work, both of you. Start working on a delivery system for the gravitational disruptors." As Zara and Cathar dove back into their work, Aisha turned her attention to the other corner of the room. There, hunched over an array of screens, sat Jai Patel, Earth's most brilliant and most eccentric AI specialist. "Please tell me you have good news, Jai," Aisha said, approaching his workstation. Jai looked up, his eyes gleaming with excitement behind thick glasses. "Oh, Captain, you're going to love this. I've been analyzing the Void's communication patterns, and I think I've cracked their encryption." Aisha's eyes widened. If true, this could be a game changer. Are you sure? Well, cracked might be a bit strong, Jai admitted. But I've identified patterns. With a bit more time, I think I can create an algorithm to predict their movements. Before Aisha could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. She rushed back to the bridge, her heart pounding. On the main view screen, a void ship had just appeared, seemingly out of nowhere. Battle stations. Aisha barked. All ships, initiate Plan Omega. Plan Omega was a desperate gambit, born from humanity's penchant for unconventional thinking. As the void ship oriented itself towards the planet, preparing to unleash its devastating weapons, the human fleet sprang into action. Small, agile fighters swarmed out from the larger ships, each equipped with specially designed EMP weapons. They darted around the void ship like angry hornets, unleashing pulses of electromagnetic energy. At first, it seemed to have no effect. The void ship's shields held firm, its weapons charging. But then, almost imperceptibly, its movements began to slow. "It's working," Chen exclaimed. "Their systems are destabilizing." Aisha allowed herself a small smile. Now for Phase 2. Gravitational disruptors, fire when ready. From the Defiant's main cannon, a strange, rippling beam of energy lanced out. Where it struck the void ship, space itself seemed to warp and twist. The massive vessel shuddered, its sleek form suddenly ungainly. "Direct hit," the weapons officer reported. "Their propulsion is offline. They're dead in space." A cheer went up on the bridge, quickly silenced by Aisha's raised hand. "This isn't over yet. Boarding teams, prepare for deployment. We need to secure that ship and any intel it might contain." As the boarding shuttles launched, Aisha couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Humanity, the newcomers to the galactic stage, had just achieved what the most advanced races had thought impossible. They had defeated a void ship. But as she watched the boarding teams approach the disabled vessel, a chill ran down her spine. This was just the beginning. The void would not take this defeat lightly. And now, humanity had painted a target on its back. Hours later, as the boarding teams returned with a wealth of captured data and technology, Aisha convened another meeting in the war room. The mood was cautiously optimistic, but tempered by the knowledge that they had only won a single battle in what promised to be a long war. "First things first," Aisha began, addressing the assembled team. "I want to commend everyone for their exceptional work today. We've proven that the void can be beaten." Nods and murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. Even Kithar, usually stoic, seemed to stand a little taller. "But we can't rest on our laurels," Aisha continued. "Dr. Okoro, what have we learned from the captured ship?" Zara stepped forward, her face a mix of excitement and concern. "The technology is incredible, centuries beyond even the most advanced Concord races. But what's truly fascinating is the biological component we found." A hologram sprang to life, showing what looked like a mass of writhing tentacles intertwined with circuitry. "The ship isn't just a vessel," Zara explained. "It's alive, or at least partly alive. We think the void might be some kind of techno-organic hive mind." The implications were staggering. They weren't just fighting ships, they were fighting an entire species, one that blurred the line between biology and technology in ways they had never imagined. "That's not all," Jai chimed in. "I've made progress on decrypting their communications. It's not a language, at least not in any way we understand. It's more like a song, a vast, complex symphony of data." Aisha absorbed this information, her mind racing. "So we're dealing with a species that's part machine, part organic, that communicates through music, and that's hellbent on destroying every other civilization in the galaxy. Any ideas why?" Silence fell over the room. It was Kthar who finally spoke up. Perhaps they see us as an infection, a discord in their grand symphony." It was a chilling thought, but one that made a certain amount of sense. If the void saw the galaxy as their song, then other life forms might be perceived as unwelcome noise. "All right," Aisha said, breaking the contemplative silence. "We've got our work cut out for us. Zara, I want you and Cathar to continue studying the captured technology. See if you can find any more weaknesses we can exploit. Jai, keep working on that decryption. If we can understand their communication, we might be able to predict their movements." As the team dispersed to their tasks, Aisha felt a mix of hope and trepidation. They had won a crucial victory, but the war was far from over. The Void would regroup, adapt, and strike back harder than ever. But humanity had shown its worth. They had brought new ideas, new strategies to the fight, and they had given the galaxy something it had been sorely lacking: hope. As Aisha looked out at the stars from the Defiance observation deck, she made a silent promise. The Void had terrorized the galaxy for too long. It was time for humanity to show them what real terror looked like. The battle for the future of the galaxy had only just begun. Turning the tide. The news of humanity's victory against the Void spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had cowered in fear for months now dared to hope. The Galactic Concord, once skeptical of Earth's involvement, now clamored for human expertise. Captain Aisha Malik found herself at the center of a whirlwind of activity. The Defiant had become the flagship of a growing allied fleet, with ships from a dozen different species joining the fight. As she stood on the bridge, overseeing the joint training exercise, she couldn't help but marvel at how quickly things had changed. "Captain," Lieutenant Commander Chen called out, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command." Aisha nodded, retreating to her ready room. The holographic form of Admiral Yuki Tanaka, head of Earth's Space Force, flickered into existence. "Captain Malik," Tanaka began, her face grave, "I hope you're ready for some heavy lifting. We've detected a massive Void fleet massing in the Orient sector. They're preparing for a major offensive." Aisha's heart raced, but her voice remained steady. "We'll be ready, Admiral. What are our orders?" "You're to lead a preemptive strike," Tanaka replied. "Use everything we've learned. Hit them before they can hit us." As the transmission ended, Aisha took a moment to collect her thoughts. This would be their biggest engagement yet. Everything they had worked for, every lesson learned, would be put to the test. She strode back onto the bridge, her posture radiating confidence she didn't entirely feel. "All hands, battle stations, set course for the Orient sector, maximum speed." As the fleet jumped to light speed, Aisha convened her now expanded team of specialists in the war room. Dr. Zora Okoro and Cathar had been joined by representatives from other species, each bringing unique insights to the table. "All right, people," Aisha began. "This is what we've been preparing for. Dr. Okoro, what's the latest on the Void's capabilities?" Zara stepped forward, activating a holographic display. "We've made significant progress in understanding their techno-organic nature. Their ships aren't just alive. They're part of a vast, interconnected consciousness. When we destroy one, the others feel it. Which explains their increasing aggression." Cathar added, his forearms gesticulating. "We're not just destroying their ships. We're killing parts of their collective self." The implications were staggering. They weren't just fighting a war. They were committing what the Void might perceive as mass murder. Jai Patel, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly perked up. "Wait a minute. If they're all connected, then maybe we don't need to destroy them to stop them." All eyes turned to the eccentric AI specialist. "What do you mean, Jai?" Aisha prompted. "Well, we've been treating their communication like a language. But what if it's more than that? What if it's their consciousness itself?" Jai's eyes gleamed with excitement. "If we could interface with their network, we might be able to communicate directly with their hive mind." It was a radical idea, bordering on insane. But as Aisha looked around the room, she saw the spark of possibility in her team's eyes. "All right, Jai," she said, "you've got until we reach Orion to figure out how to make this work. The rest of you, prepare for conventional battle. We need to be ready for anything. As the meeting adjourned, Aisha felt a mix of hope and trepidation. They were about to attempt something unprecedented in the history of warfare. The fate of the galaxy might well hinge on their success or failure. Hours later, the fleet dropped out of lightspeed on the outskirts of the Orion sector. The sight that greeted them was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Hundreds of void ships hung in space, their black hulls seeming to absorb the very starlight around them. "All ships, battle formation," Aisha ordered, her voice calm despite the tension. "Jai, are you ready?" "As ready as I'll ever be, Captain." Jai's voice came through the comm, a mix of nervousness and excitement. "The interface is prepared. We just need to get close enough to establish a connection." Aisha took a deep breath. This was it. All ships, engage the enemy. Clear a path to their flagship. The battle that ensued was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ingenuity combined with alien technology in ways that caught the Void completely off guard. EMP blasts disabled ship after ship, while gravitational disruptors left others floundering in space. But the Void was far from helpless. They adapted quickly, their ships moving in complex patterns that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Energy beams lanced out, cutting Allied ships in half. "As ready as I'll ever be, Captain." Jai's voice came through the comm, a mix of nervousness and excitement. "The interface is prepared. We just need to get close enough to establish a connection." Aisha took a deep breath. This was it. All ships, engage the enemy. Clear a path to their flagship. The battle that ensued was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ingenuity combined with alien technology in ways that caught the Void completely off guard. EMP blasts disabled ship after ship, while gravitational disruptors left others floundering in space. But the Void was far from helpless. They adapted quickly, their ships moving in complex patterns that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Energy beams lanced out, cutting Allied ships in half. In the chaos of battle, the Defiant pushed forward, protected by a screen of Allied vessels. They had one shot at this, one chance to end the war before it consumed the entire galaxy. "We're in range," Chen called out. "Initiating interface now." For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, suddenly, every screen on the bridge exploded with light and sound. It was as if the very essence of the Void was pouring into their ship. Aisha gritted her teeth against the sensory onslaught. "Jai, what's happening?" "It's working." Jai's voice was filled with wonder. "We're connected to their hive mind. It's beautiful and terrifying. Captain, I think I can communicate with them." As the battle raged around them, Jai Patel, a human who had never set foot on an alien world, became the first being in the galaxy to truly communicate with the Void. What followed was a conversation unlike any other in history. It wasn't conducted in words or even coherent thoughts, but in vast, sweeping emotions and concepts. The Void, it turned out, wasn't evil in any way humans would understand. They were simply different. To them, the disorganized chaos of individual lives was an affront to the perfect harmony of their collective existence. As Jai relayed his experiences to the rest of the crew, Aisha made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "Jai," she said, her voice filled with determination, "tell them we want peace. Tell them we can find a way to coexist. Our chaos, our individuality. It's not a threat to their harmony. It's a different kind of music, one that can complement their own." For what felt like an eternity, there was no response. The battle outside continued to rage, ships on both sides being destroyed in fantastic explosions. Then, slowly, impossibly, the Void ships began to retreat, not in fear or defeat, but in what seemed like consideration. As the last Void ship disappeared from their sensors, a stunned silence fell over the bridge. They had done it, not through superior firepower or tactics, but through understanding and communication. Aisha allowed herself a small smile. "Stand down from battle stations. And someone get me a secure line to the Galactic Concord. I think we have a lot to discuss. In the days that followed, the galaxy saw unprecedented changes. The void, while not fully understood, was no longer an implacable enemy. Diplomats and scientists from all species worked tirelessly to bridge the gap between their modes of existence. Humanity, once the newcomers, now stood at the forefront of a new era of galactic cooperation. They had brought not just their ingenuity and determination to the stars, but also their capacity for empathy and understanding. As Aisha stood in the great hall of the Galactic Concord, accepting accolades on behalf of her crew and her species, she couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged not just victorious, but transformed. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would humanity. The enemy strikes back. The uneasy peace that followed the Battle of Orion was unlike anything the galaxy had ever known. For the first time, the void was not an incomprehensible enemy, but a potential ally. Yet, as Captain Aisha Malik knew all too well, the path to true understanding would be long and fraught with danger. 6 months after the historic first contact, Aisha found herself back on Earth, standing before the United Nations Security Council. The room was tense, filled with leaders from every corner of the globe. Captain Malik, the Secretary General, began. Your reports on the void are disturbing. Can you elaborate on the risks we face? Aisha took a deep breath. The situation is complex, Mr. Secretary. While we've made significant progress in communication, there are factions within the void that view our very existence as a threat. They see our individuality as a cancer in their perfect, harmonious universe. Murmurs of concern rippled through the chamber. Aisha continued, her voice steady. Moreover, our efforts to understand their technology have had unexpected consequences. Dr. Okoro, if you would. Dr. Zara Okoro stepped forward, her usual confidence tempered by obvious worry. In our attempts to interface with void technology, we've discovered that it's more than just machinery. It's alive, and it's adaptable. In some cases, it's begun to integrate with our own systems in ways we can't fully control. The implications were clear and terrifying. The very tools they were using to communicate with the void could potentially be turned against them. As the meeting continued, debates raged about the best course of action. Some advocated for cutting off all contact with the void, while others pushed for even closer cooperation. In the end, a middle ground was reached. Research would continue, but under stricter controls. Little did they know that their decisions would soon be rendered moot. Weeks later, aboard the Defiant, Aisha was jolted awake by blaring alarms. She raced to the bridge, her mind already racing through possible scenarios. Report, she barked as she entered. Lieutenant Commander Chen's face was ashen. Captain, we're detecting massive void fleet movements across multiple sectors. They're attacking everything in sight. Aisha's blood ran cold. Get me a line to Earth Command. Now. But before Chen could respond, every screen on the bridge flickered to life. The image that appeared was like something out of a nightmare. It was Admiral Tanaka, but not as they knew her. Her skin had a metallic sheen, and her eyes glowed with an unnatural light. This is Admiral Yuki Tanaka of the Combined Void-Human Fleet, she announced, her voice carrying an odd mechanical undertone. All resistance is futile. Surrender and prepare for assimilation. Aisha felt as if the floor had dropped out from under her. Chen, full scan of Earth's defenses. Now. The results were catastrophic. Somehow, the void had infiltrated Earth's most secure systems. Defense satellites were turned against the planet they were meant to protect. Military A's had gone rogue, turning weapons on their own forces. My God, Aisha whispered. It was never about communication. They were using our own curiosity against us. As reports flooded in from across the galaxy, the full scale of the disaster became clear. The void hadn't just attacked Earth. Every world that had attempted to interface with their technology was under assault. The galaxy's greatest strength, its diversity and eagerness to understand, had been turned into its greatest weakness. Aisha's mind raced. They needed a plan, and they needed it now. Chen, set course for the Arcturus system, maximum speed, and get me Jai Patel and Dr. Okoro. We're going to need every idea they can come up with. As the Defiant raced through space, Aisha convened an emergency meeting in the war room. The mood was grim, but she could see the determination in her crew's eyes. They had been caught off guard, but they weren't beaten yet. "All right, people," Aisha began, her voice steady despite the chaos. "We're facing a threat unlike anything we've ever seen. The Void has turned our own technology against us, but they've made one critical mistake." She paused, looking each member of her team in the eye. "They've underestimated humanity's greatest strength. Not our technology, not our weapons, but our adaptability, our ability to face the impossible and find a way through." Jai Patel, his usual exuberance subdued but not extinguished, spoke up. "Captain, I think I might have an idea. It's crazy, possibly suicidal, but it just might work." Aisha nodded. "At this point, Jai, I'm open to anything. What do you have in mind?" Jai's eyes gleamed with a mix of fear and excitement. "We know the Void operates as a hive mind, right? Well, what if we could introduce a virus into that mind? Not a computer virus, but an idea. A concept so foreign to their way of thinking that it disrupts their entire network." Dr. Okoro leaned forward, intrigued. "What kind of idea are we talking about?" "Individuality," Jai replied. "Free will, the beauty of chaos and imperfection, everything that makes us, us." It was an audacious plan, bordering on insane. But as Aisha looked around the room, she saw hope rekindling in her crew's eyes. They had faced the impossible before and emerged victorious. They could do it again. "All right," Aisha said, her voice filled with determination. "Let's do this. Jai, you and Dr. Okoro start working on how we can transmit this idea virus. Khar, I need you to coordinate with what's left of the Allied fleets. We're going to need a massive distraction." As her team sprang into action, Aisha turned to look out at the stars streaking by. The galaxy was in chaos, billions of lives hung in the balance, and humanity was facing its darkest hour. But in that darkness, Aisha saw a glimmer of hope. The Void had made a critical error. They had pushed humanity to the brink, backed them into a corner. And there was nothing more dangerous than humanity with its back against the wall. As the Defiant raced towards what might be its final battle, Aisha allowed herself a grim smile. The Void thought they had won. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The real fight was just beginning. The Arcturus system, once a bustling hub of interstellar commerce, now hung silent in space. The Defiant dropped out of light speed at the system's edge, immediately cloaking to avoid detection. Captain Aisha Malik stood on the bridge, her eyes scanning the tactical displays with grim determination. "Status report," she ordered, her voice calm despite the weight of the galaxy resting on her shoulders. Lieutenant Commander Chen's fingers danced over his console. "Long-range sensors are detecting a massive Void presence in the system. Captain, they've set up some kind of central hub on Arcturus Prime." Aisha nodded. This aligned with their intelligence. The Void, in their arrogance, had created a centralized command structure to coordinate their galactic assimilation. It was both their greatest strength and, potentially, their fatal weakness. "Any word from the Allied fleet?" she asked. "They're in position, Captain," Cathar reported from his station, awaiting our signal to begin the assault. Aisha took a deep breath. This was it. Everything they had fought for, every sacrifice made, had led to this moment. "Jai, Dr. Okoro, report to the bridge immediately. It's time." As her two chief scientists arrived, Aisha could see the mix of exhaustion and excitement in their eyes. They had worked tirelessly to create what might be humanity's finest hour. The Arcturus system, once a bustling hub of interstellar commerce, now hung silent in space. The Defiant dropped out of light speed at the system's edge, immediately cloaking to avoid detection. Captain Aisha Malik stood on the bridge, her eyes scanning the tactical displays with grim determination. "Status report," she ordered, her voice calm despite the weight of the galaxy resting on her shoulders. Lieutenant Commander Chen's fingers danced over his console. "Long-range sensors are detecting a massive void presence in the system. Captain, they've set up some kind of central hub on Arcturus Prime." Aisha nodded. This aligned with their intelligence. The void, in their arrogance, had created a centralized command structure to coordinate their galactic assimilation. It was both their greatest strength and, potentially, their fatal weakness. "Any word from the Allied fleet?" she asked. "They're in position, Captain," Kithar reported from his station, awaiting our signal to begin the assault. Aisha took a deep breath. This was it. Everything they had fought for, every sacrifice made, had led to this moment. "Jai, Dr. Okoro, report to the bridge immediately. It's time." As her two chief scientists arrived, Aisha could see the mix of exhaustion and excitement in their eyes. They had worked tirelessly to create what might be humanity's last hope. "Is it ready?" Aisha asked, her gaze moving between Jai and Zora. Dr. Okoro nodded, holding up a small pulsing device. "We've done it, Captain. This transmitter contains the distilled essence of human individuality, creativity, and free will. Once activated, it should spread through the Void's network like wildfire." Jai chimed in, his usual exuberance tempered by the gravity of the situation. "It's more than just data, Captain. We've infused it with music, art, literature, everything that makes us uniquely human. If this works, it won't just disrupt their network. It might fundamentally change the Void itself." Aisha allowed herself a small smile. It was audacious, perhaps even insane, but it was quintessentially human. In the face of overwhelming odds, they had crafted a weapon not of destruction, but of creation and transformation. "Well done, both of you," she said. "Now let's end this war." With a series of crisp orders, Aisha set the final plan in motion. The Allied fleet began its assault, drawing the Void's attention with a massive frontal attack. Meanwhile, the Defiant, still cloaked, slipped through the chaos towards Arcturus Prime. As they neared the planet, alarms blared across the bridge. "We've been detected," Chen called out. "Multiple Void ships on an intercept course. Evasive maneuvers." Aisha commanded, "We need to get Dr. Okoro to that central hub." What followed was a battle that would be remembered for generations. The Defiant weaved through a storm of enemy fire, its shields straining under the onslaught. Aisha's crew worked in perfect harmony, each person anticipating the needs of the others in a display of teamwork that embodied the very essence of humanity they were fighting to preserve. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached their target. "We're in position, Captain," Chen reported. Aisha turned to Dr. Okoro. "It's now or never, Doctor. Are you ready?" Zara nodded, her face set with determination. "I'll need to get closer to ensure maximum dispersal. I'll have to go EVA." Aisha's heart clenched. It was a suicide mission, and they both knew it. But before she could respond, Jai stepped forward. "I'll go with her," he said, his voice steady. "Two minds are better than one, right?" For a moment, Aisha was speechless. Then, fighting back tears, she nodded. "Go. And thank you, both of you." As Jai and Zara prepared for their EVA, Aisha turned her attention back to the battle. "All hands, prepare for close-quarters combat. We need to buy them as much time as possible." The next few minutes were a blur of chaos and heroism. The Defiant's crew fought with everything they had, holding off wave after wave of Void attackers. Outside, Jai and Zora worked frantically to integrate their device with the Void's central hub. Just as it seemed they couldn't hold out any longer, Zora's voice crackled over the comm. "It's done. Activating now." For a moment, Nothing seemed to happen. Then, suddenly, every screen on the bridge exploded with color and sound. It was as if the entirety of human culture and consciousness was pouring through the Void's network. The effect on the Void ships was immediate and stunning. They stopped in their tracks, their movements becoming erratic and uncoordinated. Some simply shut down, while others began to move in strange, almost dance-like patterns. "It's working," Chen exclaimed, his voice filled with awe. "The Void Fleet. They're standing down." As the realization of their victory began to sink in, cheers erupted across the bridge. Aisha allowed herself a moment of celebration before turning her attention to more pressing matters. "Get Jai and Zora back on board immediately," she ordered, "and open a channel to the Allied fleet. Tell them it's over. We've won." In the days and weeks that followed, the true impact of their actions became clear. The Void, once a terrifying and implacable enemy, had been fundamentally transformed. The introduction of human consciousness into their network had awakened something new within them, a sense of individuality, of free will. It wasn't an easy transition. There were conflicts, misunderstandings, and moments of crisis. But slowly, surely, a new era of cooperation began to emerge. The Void, with their vast knowledge and capabilities, now worked alongside the other races of the galaxy, their unique perspective leading to advancements that would have been impossible before. As for humanity, they found themselves in a position they had never imagined. Once newcomers to the galactic stage, they were now seen as saviors, their creativity and adaptability hailed as the qualities that had turned the tide in the galaxy's darkest hour. Captain Aisha Malik stood in the Great Hall of the new Galactic Alliance, watching as representatives from every known species, including the transformed Void, came together in a spirit of unity and cooperation. She thought of Jai and Zora, whose sacrifice had made this moment possible, and of all those who had fought and died to bring peace to the galaxy. As the session began, Aisha allowed herself a small smile. The road ahead would be long and challenging, but for the first time in a long time, the future looked bright. Humanity had faced its greatest test and emerged not just victorious, but transformed. They had been the terror of the galaxy until humans stepped in. And now, together, they would build a future greater than any of them could have imagined alone. The end was just the beginning.